Well, welcome everyone to this month's edition of Wild Wednesday webinar. My name is Paul Kiewit. I'm the Executive Director of MIPA, and I appreciate you being with us today. And for those of you who tried to attend last week, we apologize for the technical difficulties, but we've still got a great webinar lined up for you today. Wild Wednesday webinars are brought to you by TISPA, OPA, MIPA, PPA Chicago, PPA Wisconsin, UMAP, PPA Midwest, and the Arizona Promotional Products Professionals Association. And we're glad you're here with us today. Mark your calendars for the June 29th Wild Wednesday webinar when Joe Scott, MAS, is going to be presenting Selling is Like Dating. The rules are the same. And he's got a lot of great ideas about how to apply relationship rules and ways of building relationship into how to build strong sales relationships with your clients. That'll be coming up on June 29, same time, same station, and the registration emails are starting to go out now through your local regional association. At the end of today's webinar, you'll be directed to a survey where if you fill that out and include your PIN number, I will submit that to PPAI. Today's webinar is worth 1 CAS credit. Our presenter today is Bill Petrie from Brandivate. Bill's a promo kitchen chef and a terrific blogger and content producer and industry guru who has a lot to share. And today he's going to share how to create margin through mystery and magic. Sounds magical, Bill. Take it away.
Well, thanks, Paul. I appreciate that. And again, I'll apologize for some of the technical issues last week because part of them were mine. So there you go. But thank you, everybody, for hanging in and coming back another week to give this another go. So Paul gave a great introduction about me. I have been in the industry, just if you don't know me, I have been in the industry since 2000. I've worked at in executive leadership positions at several larger distributorships before starting my own company, Brandivate, 2 years ago to work with small, medium-sized suppliers and distributors to help them responsibly grow their business. I'm very involved in the industry. I am vice president of PPAMS, which is Promotional Products Association of the Mid-South. I'm incoming president, so I'll be president next year. And as Paul mentioned, I'm also a promo kitchen chef, and you'll notice that this education session is branded a promo kitchen education session. And so here's my couple minutes on Promo Kitchen. If you're not aware of who Promo Kitchen is a 501c3 not-for-profit in our industry focused on two things and two things alone. The first of which is education, which is why I said, like I said, this is branded a Promo Kitchen education session. And the second is mentorship. We believe very firmly that we need to have a robust mentorship program to ensure that the next generation of promotional product professionals gets as much help as they need rather than getting a catalog and saying, go hit the road. So if you would like to either be mentored or if you would like to become a mentor, if you have industry experience and you'd like to share that with people who need the help, please visit Promo Kitchen at our website, promokitchen.org, and that's right there on the bottom of your screen. So having said that, I really kind of want to talk a little bit about our industry. We are in a point in our industry where what we do is very commoditized. Our clients have almost information overload. They understand, in many cases, better than we understand what we do, how we do it, how we price. It's one of those moments where I wish I could say, give me a show of hands if your clients have ever talked to you about industry codes, because they understand them as well, and I bet at least half of you would raise your hands. So because of that, and because of the internet, there's really no magic and no mystery to what we do. I remember when I first was aware of our industry, my mother was a welcome wagon hostess. For anybody who remembers the welcome wagon. So if you don't know what the welcome wagon was or is, it was a group of people who would work with the Chamber of Commerce, the local Chamber of Commerce, and as new people moved into a specific town or city, the welcome wagon would knock on their door, bring a little basket of goodies, that had the logos and information of local businesses on there, so people new to the area could understand, here's where I can go, here's where the closest hardware store is, and here's where I can get my car fixed, and so on and so forth. So I remember as a child how wonderfully magical it was that Joe's Auto Repair down the street could have a pen with his name and information on it. It's still that magical to me, but unfortunately, our client, it isn't. And so what happens when there's no differentiation? People look at us like Coca-Cola. They can get it just about anywhere. And when people look at us as a commodity, like Coca-Cola, the only thing they're going to look at is price. That's what happens when people can't differentiate. So how do we get around that? And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So I really believe where there's mystery, there's margin. Like I said before, I found it very magical as a child and right when I got into the industry how any decoration could be applied to just about any product. So we're kind of now what I call the commoditization spiral, and it has a gravity that slowly pulls every brand towards it. In this spiral, our brands, our products, our services, whatever you want to call it, we're compared to that one rational term alone, and that's price. And as we know, the lowest cost provider generally can win, and it's not a competition we want to get. If you're a fan of Seth Godin, he'll be the first to tell you, competing only on price is a race to the bottom, and that's a race you don't want to win. So to stay out of that spiral, we need to keep people acting a little bit irrationally, almost like they act when they're in love. And when Paul was talking about the next person who's doing your next Wild Wednesday webinar, it sounds like that's going to be a great one where, the selling and dating the same rules apply. And I absolutely bet I would agree with just about everything he's going to say. So in building and cultivating the relationships people have with each of your individual brands, whether it's, promotional products or if you sell other things along with that, we always think how we are kind of sustaining mystery. We appeal to each one of their senses, and we get close and personal. Because margin comes from people buying more for more money and more often. And we've allowed, as an industry, way too much of the mystery and the magic and the intimacy of our industry to be sucked away. And that's a lot of times it's done by, the internet technology has certainly done a lot of that. Procurement, we find that we're dealing a lot more with procurement agents than we ever have before, and low-cost competitors, people who are absolutely have no issue taking orders at a margin that you would find offensive. But the thing is, part of my presentation is shut up. That's okay. We can't blame the clients because it's really our fault for allowing that mystery to slip away and for taking for granted that we have a right for a sale. So a lot of distributors I work with complain about wafer thin margins, but they're not creating the mystery to justify higher margins. So let's talk about how we can create this. And there's really 4 ways we're going to do that. We're going to do that through how we present our products and services. We're going to do that through showmanship. We're going to do that through packaging, and we're going to do that through storytelling. So let's start with presentation. First is persuasive messaging. When we give a presentation, we have to always look at what's in it for them. We have to define messages that go deeper into the underlying benefits of the client. It goes beyond what will make, the traditional thing is, well, you have to think in terms of what makes the client better off because they chose to work with you. And that's true to a point, but I take it a step further. And some of you who've heard me speak before may have heard me say a variation of this, so I apologize for the few of you who this may be redundant. But I think of it very, very simply. How is the person across the desk from me being measured? In other words, how can I help them have a better annual review? Any of us who've worked in corporate America or in a larger organization, either as a manager or as a frontline employee, there's no worse day than review day. As an employee, it's hard to hear some maybe honest truths about how you work, the quality of work you do, things like that. And as a manager, it's very difficult also to give that honest feedback. So when I'm in any selling situation, I think very, very simple terms. How do I make that person have a better annual review? Because they're being measured. So if I'm talking to the vice president of sales, I know, without doing really a lot of research, and I'll still do research, but I know that that person is measured on top line sales increase over the previous year and bottom line profitability. I know that if I'm working with the human resources manager, I know that if I'm working with, sorry, I didn't mean to repeat myself. I know if I'm working with the human resources manager, they're going to be measured on maybe retaining talent or the quality of talent they attract or, making sure that there's not a lot of attrition. And even procurement, and I know a lot of people hate working with procurement. I happen to love procurement because I know exactly what they're looking for. Procurement is measured on one thing and one thing only. They have a certain product category that they are responsible for, and how can they reduce costs year over year? And if I can show the procurement person that, I can leverage that to get appointments with other departments in the organization and share how I'm going to help them have a better annual review. So make sure each presentation, each conversation, really, not even presentation, each conversation specific to the client and the audience. The second part of the presentation is structure. I've seen a lot of presentations that is this data dump, or what I used to have a boss, and he always had these great little terms, and it was that was a show up and throw up. And I think we've all sat through presentations where it seems like you're being bombarded with information and you can't even process what they're saying to not only to not take notes, but you can't even ask a question. So avoid that data dump and don't go so fast. You have so much information. Slow down. You have to adapt to the sales conversation, and it really should be a conversation. And this is flexibility is key. So in other words, you need to read your audience. I try to view myself in any sales conversation. I'm the ringmaster, and I'm managing the sales conversations and interaction. I'm not just going to bombard people with information. I want to understand if what I just said makes sense. I want to understand if they have any questions. And if you really pay attention, you can tell by the way people are sitting or paying attention to you or not paying attention to you if your point is getting across. And you can always use questions to kind of navigate on the fly and start directing the sales conversation. The last part of this is be confident and natural. And if you've had an opportunity to present to larger clients where maybe you're in a conference room and you're in front of 4 or 5 different department heads, it can be very hard to feel natural and feel confident. But at the end of all this, what so many of us forget, and I forget from time to time as well, it doesn't matter how large the audience is, it's still a human interaction. And people still buy from people they know, like, and trust. So it's important to be you. I've known Paul for too many years, not in a bad way, but I disclose my own age. I've known Paul forever, and I think if you ask Paul if I'm any different presenting in front of people, to having a conversation with him, I'm not. Good or bad, I am me. And that makes me unique, which is a big differentiator. All of us have that unique differentiator, so definitely take the time to be yourself. Take the time to be yourself. So let's talk about showmanship. There is a little theater in what we do, and the more theater we can inject into it, the more we can captivate the hearts and minds and the dollars of our audience. And so much about persuasion is in voice and body language, and this is where showmanship can be really, really helpful. We've all sat through presentations where someone's voice is very monotone and I'm just going to talk and like this. You have to use emphasis and raise your voice when you want people to listen. Or sometimes it's good to slow down and lower your voice. One of my favorite things to do in a presentation is if there's a point I really want to get across, I'll say the point, then I'll pause, and I'll say the point again. Another thing about the voice is I will tell you the best friend in if you really want to get somebody's attention, if you feel like people are starting to tune you out, because it happens, silence is your best friend. Like I was just silent for 3 or 4 seconds there. Some of you may have thought, did Bill screw up the technology again like he did last week? But my point is it gets people's attention. It's amazing. I speak in front of groups of people, sometimes numbering 100, 200 or whatever. And I have pauses built into my presentation. And it's amazing from my perspective as I see people, and some people are on their phones, some people are playing on their phones, some people are taking notes on their phones, and people are doing whatever they're doing in a session. When that silence happens, it's amazing how many people look up, go, what the heck did I just miss? What's going on? That silence is really, really a great driver. And that's, to me, it's the best of all. That pause can get attention because everybody does look up when the speaker stops talking, and it builds anticipation. What's he going to say next? And the second is body language. It's important when you speak, and obviously if you're on the phone, it doesn't matter, although I'm talking, my hands are waving in my office. They're crazy Italian. But that body language helps you command the room as you either walk or point or gesture to make emphasis. It's very important from a persuasion perspective to use the nonverbal communication as well. So part of showmanship is also building interest. I'm a huge believer of not giving it to people all at once by laying a catalog on the desk, for example. I mean, so many people have found a certain degree of success by laying a catalog on the table. Let me know what you'd like, and we'll get it for you. What you need to do, though, is build what we do brick by brick, word by word, sentence by sentence. If you walk through a prospect or a client, and it only takes a minute, and you walk them through how something's decorated, how it's going to be received from them from a packaging perspective, what they can expect from their audience when they give it out, you can build that anticipation and then reveal what the solution is. So many times back when I was carrying a bag and selling in our industry, I would say, I've got a really good idea for you. Here's what I'm visualizing. You have a group of people at a trade show, and you want to attract more people at that trade show. So I've got a few ideas I want to share with you, but the idea is slowly but surely, the buzz is going to get around the trade show floor that I need to go to that booth, because people are going to see other people holding what I'm about to show you. And you slowly build it up like that, and then you finally, they're almost like on the edge of their seat. Come on, show me already. Go ahead and show me already. This strategy is also great for case histories, and we'll talk a little bit more about case histories a little further on. When I think of showmanship, I always think of the vacuum cleaner salesman. And if any of us are old enough to remember when vacuum cleaner salesmen freely roamed the earth, they would go door to door and generally call on stay-at-home moms or housewives, and they had a great shtick to go down. So if you think of showmanship and how a vacuum cleaner salesman used to sell their wares, it really kind of turns on a light bulb. They would always start by the power of free, right? They'd start by, ma'am or sir, would you allow me to vacuum carpets for free, of course? Now, who's going to say no to that, right? It brings a feeling of goodwill. And then just like Dale Carnegie would tell all of us, right, when you get someone in the habit of saying yes, they're going to be far more likely to agree with you when it comes to things like you're ready to buy something. So they would get people to say yes. Would you like to spend less time cleaning and get better results? Of course. Would you like to know that all the dirt is taken out of your carpets? Yes. Would you like your carpets to last twice as long? Yes, yes, yes. And you build that yes. And that's an old sales tactic, but it still works. Then what they would do, they'd have to prove their point. They would have to prove their point. So they'd pour a box of salt on the carpet. They grind it in with the heel of their foot. All this beautiful theater. They'd ask to borrow, may I use your vacuum? And I'd say, they would say, ma'am, please let me know when you think I've gotten all the salt. And they would stop them maybe 10 or 15 passes. Then the salesman would use his vacuum. And he'd stop after about half the amount of passes, let's say 6 or 7, and show that his pad that he was vacuuming with was full of dirt and hair and lint, and so proving his point. We are in the same boat. Just by telling someone, one of our clients, that a specific promotional product is going to work, it means nothing. You have to prove what you can do and prove that you say what you're going to do. You have to say what you're going to do and prove that you can actually do it. This is great for testimonials and, like I said earlier, case histories. People love case histories. They gravitate towards them, and you can build a little theater around those case histories and talk about, this is a problem somebody had. We joint ventured, we worked back and forth, and this is what we came up with. And the results were whatever the results were. Those are great ways to build that showmanship. Then the vacuum cleaner salesman would go over benefits, not features. We all know that, right? If you explain, they would explain to maybe that they would not explain that the vacuum had an onboard transmission, so the motor wouldn't wear out. No one knows what that means. They would explain that the motor wouldn't wear out, and that's going to make your vacuum last longer. It makes the vacuum easier to push. It's, all those things. So we can do the same type of thing. So I personally don't care if a vacuum has an onboard transmission because I don't have a clue what it means. But once it's explained, I love the idea that the vacuum drives itself. I love the idea that it's going to last longer. And we can do the same thing when we talk about a certain type of decoration that's going to last longer, a certain product that may be a little bit more on the front end, maybe a piece of apparel that's a little more expensive on the front end, but it's going to have it's going to last through far more washings than the one that's $1 cheaper. And then what a vacuum cleaner salesman would do, they'd always say price for last. They would say, all this can, instead of saying this is $140 or $200 or what it was, they would say all this can be yours for a mere 25 cents a day over the next 2 years or however the math worked out. So get them to love you, your ideas, your decoration methods, the products, your service, whatever, but then break that price down into as small increment as you can. Mr. Client, I break this out to be, it's going to be about $1.20 per attendee, well within your budget, or maybe a little over your budget or whatever. But when you bring that price last and then you bring it down to if you can't get to a cost per impression, that'd be great, but it's certainly a cost per attendee. It's going to go a very, very long way to helping you out. So let's talk about packaging. This is something I firmly believe the industry is really, a direction the industry is really heading in right now, especially when you look at retail. And you have to think creatively. If you see on the screen right now, this is a pizza box that was developed by Pizza Hut. And if you see in the lower right-hand corner, it's got the traditional tripod box raiser, keeps the box from hitting the pizza, so you don't have the cheese and the toppings and the pepperoni sticking to the top. But if you look, there's a clear lens in there. And so this is called a Blockbuster box. You would take the pizza out. You would be able to put in your iPhone. There on the side of it, there was an app, the information to download an app, and they had a certain amount of movies that you could stream from your iPhone. You would put the lens in the side of the box, and you could stream that on or put that on a wall. Really creative packaging for a fast food company. Another one that was recently done in Europe was a Happy Meal box. So they took a traditional Happy Meal box. McDonald's worked with an ad agency to figure out how to make it almost virtual reality goggles. So you can see the top there, how it looks. All they'd have to do is peel off the cardboard, it was perforated, fold it, insert their phone, and it was a virtual reality game that was free from McDonald's as they were promoting, Happy Meals. What a great concept of packaging. It's real estate that's already there. We can and we should be doing the same thing. And these are things that can differentiate us from our competitors. So when I think of packaging, I think creatively. Especially when we're prospecting. We all want to prospect. And this is an old one, but gosh, I think it's so old, it's new again. I love the idea of direct mail. Always have, always will. And I've done some things prospecting-wise that are a little irreverent. One of my favorite ones was I wanted to send out a mailer, and I found this plastic fish. So it was a tube in the shape of a fish, and it was hollow, so I could put a little note in there, a little cheeky note, said something along the lines of, partnering with us means your promotions won't stink after 3 days, something silly like that. But the greatest thing about it is I went to the post office and I found out it could be mailed. And the greatest thing beyond that was I knew when somebody got it, it had to go on top of their mail pile. Because if you put anything on top of an oval shape, which this fish was, the thing is going to roll right off of it. More importantly, who the hell is not going to open a fish? And I didn't care that I was known as the fish guy for a while among my clients. I didn't care at all because I got their attention. And that's really half the battle. And that's the hourglass is up there. I still think that's a tremendous use of our industry. We all talk about how historically we are the worst practitioners of the merchandise and solutions we're trying to sell. This is a great way to do it. I only want 15 minutes of your time, and send them a 15-minute timer. Or, it doesn't have to be uber creative. It just has to get people's attention. It just has to get people's attention. What about a Cobbler's Gift? This is one of my favorite products. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's from Org Audio. It's a 4,000 milliamp portable charger, and obviously it's you hit people where they live. People live on their portable devices. It's a good charger. It's a fine charger, but what's really amazing is the packaging, all the way down to the straw on the back. It's called a juice box, and it's packaged in an actual juice box. It's amazing. And clients will pay a premium for that, where they might expect to pay $5 or $6 for a portable charger. They'd be thrilled to pay $1.50 more for that same charger, because the packaging is creative, it's fun, it's engaging, and it takes us beyond just a simple product. One of my favorite things about stories is a promotion did a long time ago when I worked with IBM for a new product launch. They wanted a promotional product. I gave us a budget. They wanted a promotional product that would show that they had taken 7 ounces out of the weight of their ThinkPad, the IBM ThinkPad, from one year to the next. And back then, that was a big idea. Laptops started off being huge and heavy and bulky, and they were showing that they were going smaller and lighter. And they wanted to send this to several hundred people in the press to get their message across. And we came up with, a piece. We first of all came up with a piece of chocolate that weighed 7 ounces to show, okay, here's how much it weighs. But then we took it a step further. Made it in the shape of a keyboard, which was, I think it was stock, if I remember right, a chocolate keyboard. But then we put it in a package that was the exact same dimensions as the laptop. And you'd open the lid, and there was a tray in the middle and the bottom of it where the chocolate keyboard sat. And on the inside cover, which would, if you think of a laptop, it would look at it and appear as if the inside of the screen, it listed all the new features of the new ThinkPad. And we were able to charge several dollars more per product because of the packaging. They loved that packaging, and I wish I had a picture of it. I really do. It was a tremendous thing. So you can think about every product you do, every client you have, start thinking about packaging options, because that's what's going to start setting you apart from your competition who say, yeah, how about if we just give people a charger? a portable phone charger. That's not hard to do. Last one example, this is a project I worked on for UPS, for the UPS stores about 4 years ago. And they wanted something that was fun but very cost effective for their the front desk of the UPS stores. And all this is paper. It's a Kleenex box. I guess technically it's a disposable handkerchief box because Kleenex is a trademark name, but I think you get the point. But it was a fun Kleenex box that sat on their desk. No one else came up with anything even remotely like that. The things people were coming up with were stock products shipped the way they're shipped from a supplier. So again, I can't stress enough how important packaging is to what we do, especially going forward. Because our clients, from a distributor perspective, our clients have so many options to get the same exact product. So we have to individually up our own game and turn on our own creative juices and really try to understand how we can raise the value of what we're doing through simple packaging. Think of the customer experience. What are they getting when they open it? Does it feel like a retail experience? People are now used to buying things with tremendous packaging from Apple and so on and so forth. So I strongly suggest that. Last section is storytelling. People remember stories far better than any other type of communication. First reason, it adds meaning. The most important benefit they make, it's the most important benefit to make your message meaningful. Share stories, share experiences that simple bullet points absolutely can't convey. Because through experience, we each have become experts at drawing life lessons out of stories. Right? We learned very early on, don't drink orange juice after brushing your teeth. It tastes terrible. I learned a long time ago, don't talk politics with my father-in-law. We all learned don't go to a certain restaurant because someone tells you a story maybe about poor service or the lack of quality food. You can always tell your audience something, but if you tell them in a story, they can apply that knowledge themselves, right? So if you tell me to always lock my car and don't tell me why, I'm going to be a little skeptical. But if you tell me your car was stolen by parking it in a certain parking lot after you left it unlocked, now that really fits into the wheelhouse of my brain. I really understand it. I can categorize that, and I can draw on that story to make a decision. Storytelling builds rapport. Stories absolutely create a bond between the teller and the listener. Think about if any of you have ever managed a salesperson. If you simply give a salesperson feedback to improve performance, they'll probably be attentive because you're the boss, but they're likely going to be also a little bit defensive. But when you tell a story about how you face similar challenges as a salesperson, they're much open to your feedback. Your clients are the same. If you just say, here's a great product, I think it's awesome for you, you can tell them a story. You know, I had a client, totally different industry, but very similar application, that used this product, and here's exactly how they used it, and here's the response that they got. So if you tell them in a story, it helps build that rapport that they're facing challenges that your clients have similarly faced. It spreads the message. Stories are easier to understand and easier to remember. They're also easier to share. So studies have shown that 75% word of mouth travels in the form of a story. So if you can tell your story in a case history or another format, people are going to retain that information and understand it. I tell, in one of my sessions, I tell a story about how I ruptured my Achilles. I ruptured my Achilles a year and a half ago at PPAI Expo. And I guarantee you, if you heard that story, you'll walk up to me and remember. I'm not going to tell the story now, but I'll leave you on suspense if you haven't heard me tell it. But people remember that story. They remember exactly where I was, almost better detail than I remember. Exactly where I was, exactly what I was doing. And it's amazing when you think about the power of storytelling. The last part about storytelling, it stops disagreement in its tracks. Facts, when you give people facts, it encourages people to process information critically and think of reasons to either agree or disagree with you. Stories are processed very differently by the human brain. They relax the audience and encourage them to use their imagination and emotions. So if I just tell you I ruptured my Achilles, you might think, wow, that sounds like a painful injury. Wow, isn't the rehab on that really long? So on and so forth. But if I tell you the story, and I'll tell it quickly just because I want to. If I say, I was at the beginning of launching my company. I was in Las Vegas at PPI Expo, and I'm a 45-year-old guy at the time, and I can't do late nights every night in Vegas anymore. So it was Monday. I'd gotten in on Sunday. It was Monday, and I decided it was going to be my early night. I was going to have one beer and go to bed. And one of my supplier friends offered to take me out to dinner with his group, which was very kind. And, of course, I took him up on the free meal. Who wouldn't? And it was off-site at Caesar's Palace, and I stuck to my one beer. And at the end of the night, I was the only one who stuck to one beer because one of the people in the group of 13 wanted to get a 13-person limo back to the hotel. I know what my personality brings to the table when I'm not happy with something, so I sat across on a stone bench, and they organized whatever transportation they were going to take. And the gentleman who was organizing transportation saw me across the circular driveway to Caesar's Palace, said, "Bill," and came skipping over to me. And I thought, well, that looks like fun. I grabbed his arm do-si-do style, and we started skipping back, and I ruptured my Achilles skipping in Las Vegas. Stone cold sober. True story. So people remember that story. It's a good story. And I kind of rushed through it, but I think you get my point. If you tell your clients a story about how a product's going to positively forward and advance their goals and their objectives, they're going to remember it. I'd mentioned case histories earlier. Great opportunity to tell a story. It showcases your expertise. It shows the how, and it provides that path of story and can show return on investment. So how do we put it all together? When I think of putting it all together in a master storyteller and doing a lot of these things in terms of theater and showmanship, I think of Steve Jobs. Regardless of what you think of him as a human being, he was a master marketer, and he did five things that really put it all together. So the first thing is always know what the critical point is in your presentation and make it clear. Steve Jobs always recognized that the human mind couldn't process a mountain of material in one sitting. So any information, any data that you have that isn't driving your specific message generally is going to be viewed as a distraction, and it's going to weaken the impact of your presentation. Second, acknowledge why people should be listening to you. They should be in there for a particular reason. So before you even go in there, it's critical for you to understand why they're listening, so you can tune your presentation in a manner that makes it much more receptive to them. So the same talk might play out differently if it's given to marketing, like I said earlier, if it's given to marketing, procurement, or human resources. If we go back to that example of selling to people looking at the perspective of helping them have a better annual review, my message is going to be very different to marketing than it is procurement or human resources or sales. Make an immediate personal connection. Steve Jobs always began by trying to make that emotional connection with the audience, even though his goal was to sell technology. So that connection can build empathy, and that's going to in tune encourage your audience to be a lot more receptive to what you have to say. Keep your audience focused on you, not the presentation. Remember, especially if you're doing PowerPoint, the audience is not there to look at your slides. This is actually one of the last presentations I have that have words on it. Most of my presentations these days have just pictures because I want them focused on me. I want them listening to me. I don't want them reading ahead. So it may be maybe bringing a prop to draw their attention, or sometimes inserting a blank slide into a presentation is great. I used to, when I used to present to large clients, I would always have a slide, and it was titled Next Steps near the end of a presentation. And it was blank. And I always used to say, I don't know what the next steps are. I'd like to talk to you. What do you think the next steps are? It was a really powerful slide in a presentation because it was blank. You know, you have all this real estate that so many people want to fill up with words and pictures, and that's fine. But that blank slide really kept the focus on where I wanted the conversations to go. Last is know your story. You should know your content, whatever you're presenting, so completely that you be comfortable giving it. If your computer died, if if the slide projector is not working, whatever. And that you even script everything. I don't advocate that. Steve Jobs certainly scripted everything. I don't advocate that. I like knowing about 70 to 80% of what I'm going to say, and I like that 20% me thinking on the fly. That's how I feel like I work best, because then I can tailor make my presentation to really just about any audience. So, like I said, I prefer to have that element of spontaneity and improvisation. So regardless of your style, you need to master the story, because what it does, a lot of people, what's the one big fear? Public speaking. If you know your story, if you know what you're going to talk about, it really affords you the luxury of calm and clarity. That's very important in a presentation. It really makes a great presentation. So a couple key takeaways for everybody today, and then I'll be happy to open it up to any sort of questions and answers if anybody has any. Understand that your clients are now viewing you as a commodity. That's exactly what they look at us now. They can get it from any number of places. Just like you as distributors may look at certain suppliers that I can get that specific product at several different suppliers. Your clients are looking at you the same way. So it's important for you to understand that you can only rebuild that margin erosion, because there are sliding, if you inject some magic and mystery into the sales process by presentation, packaging, storytelling, all those things, because it really is about the sizzle that goes along with the steak. With that, I'll ask Paul to open it up for any sort of questions. I'll be happy to answer them.
Well, thank you, Bill. If anyone has any questions that they'd like to discuss with Bill, there's a chat box on the left side of your screen. Please feel free to enter your questions there. Or if you would like to go live, you can also *6 on your phone, and that will allow you to unmute yourself. Well, if we're done, go ahead, Bill.
No, I was going to say, anyone, I am happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Bill. I really enjoyed your presentation a lot. You are certainly right on in terms of the fact that we can become commodities if we allow ourselves to be commodities. And we really need to be making a choice and a hard decision on how we're going to differentiate ourselves and be different. There's a lot of people in the commodity space that are making a lot of money and charging additional and getting people to pay that additional, as well as making good profits at it. I mean, when you think of the commodity of cars, there's everything from cars that start in the teens, thousands of dollars, to Porsches. Down to it, a Porsche is a commodity. It's just a car. Yep. But someone's made the choice to pay $100,000 plus for a vehicle.
Absolutely.
When you look at Scott sells grass seed. They sell fertilizer. But people pay a premium to get turf builder and
right.
to have a greener lawn. So there's a lot of people.
They've done a good job. They've done a good job telling the story of, look, if you buy turf builder, here's what you can expect, and we can do the same things. I'm a huge believer, like I said, in the packaging right now in our industry. I think it's creating that end user customer experience so it has much more of a retail feel. It not only gets you the sale the first time, but it really builds relationships, because they're going to think, my other promotional products distributors don't do that. They can give me the same products, but they can't help me build the story to engage my audience. Right.
You're absolutely right. Sales today is all about storytelling. Matter of fact, our hero Seth Godin defines branding in terms of storytelling and memories, and that is
absolutely.
That's exactly what we have the tools to do. And again, back to the Scots analogy, they sell families playing on their lawn and being barefoot in a thick grassy lawn, and families getting together in their yards. And it's not about the nitrogen content.
No.
in the bag.
No, because no one knows what that means. I mean, I guess there'd be a few scientists that knows what that means. I just, give me stuff that gives me green lawn. That's that's what people want to know.
Right. I don't see any questions. So once again, everyone, as you check out, there's a survey, and if you fill in your PIN number, I'll submit that to PPAI and get you CAS credits for today's webinar, which has been recorded. In a couple hours, I'll be posting that link to the MIFA Facebook page, and also we'll be distributing it to your regional executive directors so that they have it on hand. And would also like you to save the date, June 29, our June Wild Wednesday webinar with Joe Scott, MAS. Joe's going to be speaking on selling is like dating. The rules are the same. Bill, once again, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today. It was great information. And everyone, look forward to speaking with you at the end of the month for another Wild Wednesday webinar.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.